8 months. There's nowhere in the Western Hemisphere that could happen. We need constitutional reform, and APNU-AFC are committed to constitutional reform.
The issue of what assurance can be given that we wouldn't get the same treatment like the United Force. Well, this is not the period when the Constitution would have permitted a minority to enter into a coalition with another minority, and you go to the governor and the governor says you could form the government. You can form governments, coalition governments, after elections because of the present Constitution. So that is why it has the clause that the party that wins a plurality could form the government. Assuming we had gone in this race three-way, and the PPP came in with 35%, APNU with 34%, and the AFC with 31%. The 35% would win the elections with 35% of the vote, a reduced minority, but takes 100% of the power. 65% of the people's representatives would be condemned to sit in the opposition with no voice. So we need constitutional reform to address the issue of fair representation and to ensure that we don't have this kind of minority government in violation of the Constitution, not including others. But I come back to the question, in the agreement we have made, the selection, the list representative would be from civil society, not APNU or AFC. That person will decide after we would have consulted who gets their seat into Parliament. Then among the seats in the Parliament, the Alliance for Change is assigned 12 seats, win, lose or draw. And I'm saying this, the party leader Kemraj has said it, we're not saying this to big up ourselves, we're not saying this as a threat, but we're saying this that we hold a guarantee that if things don't go well, David, and you and I have to file legal proceedings for a divorce, I'm taking my property with me. 12 seats. And when he end up in a minority, I go over to the other side, and you're getting the no confidence motion all over again. So that is a guarantee. That's a safety net. That the way we configure the agreement is that we could guarantee that you don't have any arbitrary action. It could happen. We are human beings. But we will try to work together to build trust, to build confidence, and to promote relationship that will make this thing work. It's not the pandit and the mulvi and the priests who make marriages work. The parties involved in the union have to carry it forward.
All right.
Okay, so those are my responses.
Excellent responses. Before Charles read off the next set of questions, I just want to remind you guys, none of what's being talked about today will occur unless we support these guys to make it occur. And that's going to take resources. It's going to take resource, financial resource, and every other resource we can muster. So there is a little gift box going to be passed around while we continue the question. Please give as generously as you can.
And $50 per person would be accepted. Thank you. Another question. My parents are from Guyana, but I was born in America. I would like to play an active role in shaping the future of Guyana. How can you include people like me? What are your plans to improve real human development? Guyana desperately needs a state development bank that can engage and facilitate the smaller but risky investors incubate your ideas into bankable projects. Can you share your view on whether you would want to go along this road as the next president of Guyana?
If I can start with the human development. The records will show that APNU and AFC together in the National Assembly have supported more human development initiatives than the PPP. In fact, together we have more indigenous members in APNU and AFC. And that is an area of neglect in Guyana, because sometimes people feel that ethnic unity is about Indians and Africans alone, and they forget that there are over 70,000 indigenous people. But there was a situation in 2013 when over 10 Amerindian children died as a result of gastroenteritis. It was APNU and AFC together which looked at that human condition. APNU and AFC together supported the call for investigation into trafficking in persons. APNU and AFC have advanced more measures in the National Assembly concerning human development. And when you go around, regardless of whatever your discipline is, you go around the entire country, not just Georgetown, not just Quarantine, but go through all 10 regions. When you see what happens in terms of suicide, as I told Mr. Roy, happy people don't kill themselves. Why should Guyana be top of the suicide list in the whole Western Hemisphere? Look at the rate of traffic accidents. Guyana has 4 times the rate of traffic accidents in the United States of America per capita. Look at armed robberies. There are 3 armed robberies every day in Guyana. Every 8 hours there's an armed robbery in Guyana. When we speak of human development, let's look at medical, let's look at education. 6,000 of our children drop out of school every year. 6,000 Guyanese children drop out of primary and secondary school every year. What? Every month 500 children drop out of school. We are concerned about human development. Other people are concerned about exporting raw bauxite and raw lumber. We are concerned with giving the ordinary Guyanese people the same thing that you asked for in your question. Microfinance, a development bank, so that they can become entrepreneurs. We want to open the doors for you to come back and invest on a level playing field. We don't have a table with over and under, and you must pass your hand under the table if you want to get land or if you want to get a house lot. That's why I started by welcoming you as the other half of Guyana. Not necessarily better or worse, but the other half of Guyana. So in terms of Human Development Index, Guyana and Barbados became independent in 1966. And Guyana is about 90 places behind Barbados. When you look at sanitation, when you look at education, when you look at environmental degradation, Guyana is not doing well. So in terms of human development, I can assure you that things will change. To use Dr. Somar's word, there will be transformation. As far as the American Guyanese are concerned, well, it is for you to decide. If you want Guyanese nationality, we welcome you back home. We feel that in the long term, Guyana will become the gateway. It's the only English-speaking country on the continent of South America. It is the bridge between CARICOM, the Caribbean, and South America, UNASUR, the whole South American continent. The fastest developing economy in the world, Brazil. We should not be victims of cocaine trafficking and gun running. We should be leading the Caribbean in terms of economic development. And we want you to come back home. We welcome you. We want you, the children of our diaspora, to understand what your parents and foreparents went through, to give you the opportunity even to come here, to have a good education and to have a good life. But we want to go back. We want you to go back and see how your compatriots are living and help them to reach the standard of living that you've achieved here in Guyana. You want to answer the question of the bank?
You want to do bank?
You want to answer?
All right. The issue is, as a politician, we cannot overpromise and under-deliver. We realize that we are living in a country where 25% or more of our able-bodied people are unemployed. 30%, and coming a little lower, perhaps 26%, are living in extreme poverty. You look at the statistics and you know that the problems are enormous. Human development begins with human capital, and you have to provide for our people. The first thing we have to provide is jobs. David talked about downstream activities, manufacturing. We have seen a plan that we are working on that doesn't speak to 2 years, 3 years, or even 5 years. We are looking at 15 years because politicians always look to the next elections. We want to look to the next generation. And therefore we are looking at lands in Berbice from Molson Creek to the Kanji Creek that could be open to access people to lands for agriculture, for cattle rearing, for aqua farming. We are looking at protecting human capital by having a forensic investigation almost the day after elections into the sugar industry. Why we spend $47 billion on a single factory that Jack Dave said he would fix, and it can't be fixed. Why the parliament, we voted $17 billion to help to revive the sugar industry, and it is still not performing to its anticipated and expected levels. Human capital is in danger, facing a future of uncertainty if sugar collapses. So we have to be able to repair, review and repair and diversify sugar. We have increased production of rice, but today the rice farmers face an uncertainty as to whether they will have guaranteed markets, and the price that we are having from Venezuela through the Petro-Caribbean initiative has dropped. But more importantly, we have exported rice to the tune of $27 billion, and no one can account for where 9 of the $27 billion gone. The farmers are not getting the price for the paddy they deserve and they rightly earn. Therefore, I want to start with what Martin Carter once said, the giving of the now. What is the volume of problems we have to deal with? And start with those. Because if you're dealing with human development, you'll have to address the old economy, and then you have to start thinking about how to promote a new economy. And so these are some plans we have on the table, and we will push those forwards. We have decided, and we are now harmonizing the manifesto, that we'd like to have return a development bank. The development bank must garner capital so that small investors can have an opportunity to start their own business. Young people, young students coming out of school who are involved in IT. We place great emphasis on information technology, but we have a problem. The last government, the outgoing government, has given away the entire spectrum. So that if we are looking for bandwidth within which we could do information technology, all have gone to the friends of the government. They lock it off. And therefore, we will have to start with a re-examination of where all the frequencies for television, the frequencies for radio, the bandwidth for internet connectivity, where all of these have gone and who have them. And to see that standards and requirements are set by law so that those who can utilize it to create jobs. Our young people must create applications. Our young people must be able to do computer repairs etc., and not simply receive laptops as a gift. So that, my friend, it's a question that will require us to go into a very comprehensive way, but we certainly not going to do what happened recently. The government transferred $3 billion from the GGMC, the Golden Mine, the Commission, Mineral Commission, to the Ministry of Housing. We would like that money to be transferred as a soft loan to rice millers who could borrow the money and pay rice farmers up front for the paddy, and not allow them to go and protest, and when they protest you tear gas them and you strip them naked and put them before the court. So human development for us is a priority, but it has to come with an integrated and a comprehensive plan how to correct the deformity of the present economy and how to open up avenues for further development of Guyana in terms of its agri-potential.
All right, just let me add just one issue, and that human development must take into consideration the human condition under which we live. And the APNU and AFC over the last 3 years have actually championed the cause of human development in several areas. We looked at human development in terms of public infrastructure. The way that public infrastructure is funded, it was skewed against human development. So, for example, poor people paid more for services that they were entitled to. So in the last parliament, what we did is that we actually brought a motion in the National Assembly calling on the government to reduce the toll on the Berbice Bridge. We passed that motion in the National Assembly, but this government, the PPP government, and the Minister of Public Works, Mr. Robson-Ben, said it will never happen. But what we want to say is that in an APNU-AFC government, we are going to make sure that it happens. That's one. The second condition is the condition of the Social Security Network, that is the National Insurance Scheme, and the way we deal with the funds in that scheme. What has happened over the last couple of years is that we have actually jeopardized old age pensions, we've jeopardized the people when you get old, how you are secured. We've jeopardized it because we have entered into investments with funds from the scheme that were ill-advised. And so the scheme is in virtual collapse mode. And this is something we have to address very carefully. We have to address taxation. Taxation is far too high in our country. If you look all across the region, I believe Guyana is the most taxed country in the region. And these are things that we have to address. Old age pension is a mess. And so we have to address all of these things if we are to look at human development. And we believe that looking at a human condition is integral to looking at human development. So I just wanted to add those points.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, we are appealing to you and the guys in the back there. Please keep it down. Allow the candidates to speak, and you're going to have the rest of the afternoon to enjoy yourself. Thank you for your cooperation.
All right, having said that, you know, we have been here a long time, and I think our time is fastly coming to an end quickly. And thank you for your questions, but I think I can only ask 3 more questions of the candidate, and then we will have to close it off. The other question is, what are your plans for Linden concerning the vast unemployment and the poor healthcare system? The other one is, it has been reported in the media that there will be no witch hunt. Does that mean that person guilty of financial and other criminal will be pardoned? What will be done regarding the police reform? And finally, the final question, I'm sorry, what is your plans for bringing every household and every child into modern technology?
Again. Thank you for those questions. Now, let me deal with the second one first, the witch hunt. And both Moses and I can answer these questions. What we said is that we are a forward-looking administration. We're not bent on revenge, on recrimination, and retribution. Persons who are alleged to have committed offenses are going to face the full force of the law. But we want an independent judiciary, we want strong institutions, and the law will take its course. We want an efficient police force. But it is not the business of politicians to intrude in the criminal justice system in this way. Persons who have committed murder, and we have called for an investigation into Shahshah's murder. The government has refused to investigate the assassination of one of its own ministers. So we're not pardoning anyone, but we are not obsessed with revenge and the past. We want to ensure that Guyana continues to move forward and allow the wheels of justice to turn. And persons who commit offenses, the person who's slain Courtney Krumruing, the person who's slain Satido Saw will be brought to justice. That is what APNU is about. It's about justice. So the second part of that question was about the police force. I had the honor of serving 11 years ago as a member of the Disciplined Forces Commission. And we had recommended that police officers be better paid, police officers receive the type of assets, the type of equipment they need. For example, the border with Brazil alone is about 1,100 kilometers. You cannot patrol that border on foot. You need aircraft. You need all-terrain vehicles. The police is on the strength. The police has to be brought up to strength. The police has to be retrained. These are things that we know and we will do. The government signed an agreement with the British government, the government of Guyana. There are over 15 agreements that the government of Guyana has entered and have not implemented those agreements. That is why the police force is as it is. The police force is being encouraged to ignore certain types of crime. And that is why we are in this present situation. That's why some of you are afraid to go back home, because you know you cannot get the protection that the police force should extend. It will never happen in America. It wouldn't even happen in Suriname. But it's happening in Guyana because the government is weak and it is not empowering the Minister of Home Affairs, it's not removing the Minister of Home Affairs. In fact, we brought a motion of no confidence in the Minister of Home Affairs since July 2012. So as far as the policing problem is concerned, we know what to do. You cannot pay a policeman $57,000 Guyana dollars, put him in the hinterland. He's got to look after a wife and children on the coastline. He's got to buy food for himself. You put him in a mining area, what do you think will happen? The miners are going to contact him. The miners are going to speak to him. So we have problems, but we know, we in APNU and AFC know about those problems and how to solve those problems. The Linden healthcare system is just a mirror of what is happening in other parts of the country. The Linden employment system is just a mirror. I mentioned it briefly. Unless you solve the education problem, you're not going to solve the employment problem. You cannot have a system in which 6,000 children are dropping out of school every year. That is the cause of unemployment. The education system is broken. And even people who graduate from primary and secondary schools do not have jobs. That is why we have pledged that every single region will have a technical institute and an agricultural institute. So young people who come out of school in St. Ignatius or in Hazaroro will be able to go into a Barima Technical Institute or Rupununi Technical Institute so that they don't become unemployed. They can go into agro-processing, they can go into farming, they can go into manufacture. So instead of exporting raw logs, we start exporting quality furniture. And you here in the diaspora will be proud to buy Guyanese furniture, put Guyanese furniture in your homes. Guyanese gold jewelry. We must stop exporting raw lumber, raw bauxite, raw gold, raw rice, raw sugar, and start building refineries. And